Hello and welcome to this investor update presentation. We published our Q2 report this morning, so we will in this presentation go through the highlights of that. And before we start, I would like all of you to mute your camera and microphones, and then you can open up them when it's time for Q&A. In this presentation today, it will be me, Lena Sundquist, CEO of Climeon, presenting together with our CFO, Arnesson. And what we will go through today is first a background of Climeon and a summary of what's happening in the last quarter at Climeon. Then we will present the business in our energy and industry market, followed by our maritime market. Then we will go through what we are doing when it comes to product development. Carl will go through some key financials, and after summary, it will be time for Q&A. And we've got a number of pre-registered questions that we will also try to include in this presentation. And then we will take some of them in the end, and there will also be possible for you to ask questions in the live chat. But we will come back to that at the end of the presentation. So first, starting with a background of Climeon. Climeon was founded in 2011, and what we do is that we have a so-called heat power system that converts low temperature heat into clean electricity. And we have a very good efficiency of that, and we also have a number of patents connected to our technology, which we will come back to. We are around 45 people working at Climeon, and we have our headquarters in Kista, outside Stockholm in Sweden. Today we have more than 40 units in operation globally, and the units that are in operation today is our Heat Power 150 system, producing sustainable power from heat. The majority of these units are on board ships. So, for example, on board Viking Line vessels, Havila vessels, Virgin Voyages vessels, and one system on board a Maersk vessel. And then we have a number of units that we are now installing on a UK power plant. We have one unit on SSAB, a steel mill in Sweden. And we also have a number of units producing geothermal power. The system that we're now taking to the market is our next generation of heat power system, the Heat Power 300 system. That is a product platform which have a number of advantages compared to Heat Power 150. And one of the main advantages is that it produces electricity at a much lower cost than the Heat Power 150. So it means that with the Heat Power 300 system, our customers can get a good business case, and it also gives a much more profitable business for us at Climeon. Together with all our units, we also have a so-called Climeon Live system, which is a cloud-based system where we can monitor the performance of all our units in operation, and also the customers can monitor the operations of the units. And here is a summary of what's happening at Climeon during the last quarter. So within the energy and industry business, we booked an order of around 1.1 million euro, and that was sales of 2 Heat Power 300 units to an EPC company called Thermolink that will install that on a industry in Lithuania. That's Neo Group industry. And then we're also having a lot of dialogues with other potential customers for this business. Within our maritime business area, there's a lot of things ongoing. We have a lot of discussions with customers, both ship owners and shipyards in various stages in the sales process. And during the last quarter, we've had both ship owners and shipyards, which has performed audits of us. We'll come back to this. And then there's a lot of activities and events ongoing where our maritime team meets more customers all the time. Within product development, we are securing the performance of this system. So now that we know what the requirements are of our customers, and we have that in contract that we both have signed and that we are negotiating, we are then testing our system in connection to the customer requirements. So we're making sure that we meet all the required customer requirements when it comes to kilowatt produced. We've also worked a lot with documentation, both customer documentation and production documentation, and we're also making sure that we meet all the required certification, both for the maritime market and the land-based market in Europe. During this quarter, we've also filed 2 new patents for the Heat Power 300 system. And within finance, we are following according to the plan that we have set, and Carl will come back to this. So the energy and industry segment, what we do here at Climeon and what our heat power system provides is a solution to produce sustainable and cost-efficient electricity. As we all know, there's a growing need of electricity in the world, both because we're becoming a larger population all the time at this planet, and everyone requires more electricity. And it also so that all the new environmental products, like batteries, green steel, and biofuels, they also demand electricity. Even though the electricity price in for example, Sweden has been on a very low bottom or low cost level during the last months, still during this winter and over time, it's expecting a rather high cost of electricity. And it's also so now that a lot of both countries and also industries, they do not want to be so dependent on getting electricity from the grid. So countries want to be more independent when it comes to importing electricity, and also they do not want to import and be so dependent on imported fossil fuel like gas, oil, and other types of important fuel. So many countries now want to produce more electricity in their own country. And that is very good with our type of solution. And as we all know also, there's a lot of focus on reducing CO2 emissions. So everyone wants to find ways of both reducing or make energy savings and reducing the amount of electricity used, and also want to produce more sustainable electricity, which is possible with our heat power system. And in this market, we are focusing on customers and industries and energy producers, and sometimes also geothermal power plants in Europe and UK, which has the conditions to meet return of investment of less than 5 years. And that return of investment, it includes our system, but also cost for installation and production cost. And that is possible to meet in a number of different countries in Europe. One type of countries where all of these requirements are possible to use is in the Baltic state. And here in the Baltic states, there is a lot of focus now on not being so dependent on imported fuel or imported electricity. And the cost of electricity is around zone 4 in Sweden, so it's a rather high cost of electricity. So we see now that we are getting a lot of inquiries from, for example, the Baltic states in Europe. And this order was from Lithuania. It's from a plastic industry. They are producing PET hearts. They're one of the biggest producers in Europe for this. They have 3 production lines, and 2 of those production lines will now install one heat power 300 system each. And this installation is planned to be in operation in Q2 next year to produce sustainable power at the site. And the total order value for Climeon is around 1.1 million euro. And with this order, we have started the supply chain process and the production planning here at Climeon, together with all our sub-suppliers and also together with our assembly partner, Mastic. So this was the first order we booked for this market area, and we are in discussion with many more potential customers within energy, within industry, and also having a number of discussions in geothermal power, even though they are in a more early stage. So we continue to our maritime business area. And in marine, there's a lot of focus on energy efficiency. Many customers or ship owners want to reduce their amount of fuel being used. Many of them also want to cut CO2 emissions and make their ships more energy efficient. So there's also a lot of focus now on different types of fuels. Many are changing or having dual fuel to be able to use, for example, methanol, and others are also using LNG. And then when using other types of fuel like this, then it's even more interest to do fuel savings, as these has a higher cost of these type of fuels. And there is around 1,500 to 1,800 new ships being built every year, large both passenger ships and merchant fleet. And around 30% of those, we see that they are suitable for our heat power 300 solution. So that gives us an addressable market of around 500 to 600 new built ships per year. And then in addition to this comes the huge retrofit market, where there's also an interest to make existing ships more energy efficient. In marine industry, there's a lot of different stakeholders. Our 2 main customer groups are ship owners and shipyards. So when we start a sales project, we always start that with the ship owner. So together with the ship owner, we calculate how much fuel and how much CO2 we can save on board a ship with our solution. And that depends then on the number of parameters, such as how much heat the ship has available, the cold water that we can cool the system with, the operating profile of the ships, how many hours they are using the ship per year, and so on. And then when the ship owner see that this is an interesting case and a good payback of this system, they include either ORC or heat power into the yard specification. And then our discussion starts with the yards. So together with the yards, we send over a lot of technical documentation of our system together with them, and do calculation also with the yards on potential savings. And also the yard is calculating the installation cost of our system. So then the ship owners get an even more detailed business case of potential savings with our system, but also all the costs. So cost of our system, cost for the installation, and cost of operation. And that gives them the complete business case evaluation for including our system. And then our negotiations continue both with the shipyards. They are the ones that we are selling to when it comes to a new built ship, but the ship owners always need to approve when a new system is on board a ship. So that is the process that we are working with in a number of ship owners and shipyards at the moment. And during the last quarter, we've had many of those dialogues and negotiations ongoing, and we've also had both shipyards and ship owners which has performed audits of Climeon to go through all our documentation and processes. And we also had both ship owners and shipyards visiting our test site in Kista and also doing audits of our manufacturer in southern Sweden. And our maritime team has also attended a lot of events to meet more customers, and here is 2 examples. They have been in Åland meeting ship owners and shipyards there, and also been in Norrköping outside Oslo, where there's a big fair meeting the maritime industries. Then we're of course also continuously working on the units that we've already sold to make sure that they are working and commissioning those systems, both on, for example, Virgin Voyages and Havila. So we continue with product development. Here there is a lot of work being ongoing. One thing that we are continuously doing testing of the system. So we are making sure that we meet all the customer requirements when it comes to production of electricity. And we also, of course, want to continuously optimizing this and get as much electricity out as possible, because the more electricity we can get out from our system, the higher price we can take from our system, because at the end of the day, it's electricity that our customer buys. So a lot of optimization work is being done here, and we're also testing various components in the system, because over time we do not want to be dependent on a certain component supplier. So we want to have to be as flexible as we can with this system, making sure that it meets all the requirements from customers, and also making sure that it meets the cost targets that we have today at Climeon. Then we're continuously working to make sure that the system meets all the customer requirements or certification requirements, for example, CE marking for the European market, and also meets all the various grid codes requirements. And that needs to be tested in our lab. Then this system also meets the maritime requirements. This last quarter, we have got so-called written approval in principle from DNV. DNV is one of the classification societies for the maritime industry. So what they have done, that they have approved our design in principle, as they call it. And then the final approval, we get that when a unit is installed on board a ship. But we know that we meet all the required certification for the maritime industry. We have also produced a lot of documentation. One thing that we need to produce detailed customer documentation, both when we have got an order, but also for the customer discussions that we have ongoing. So we know that we have all the right customer documentation in place. And now also when we have got the first orders and when they are in production, we also need to produce a lot of documentation for production. So that has been ongoing during the last quarter. We have also filed 2 new patents for Heat Power 300. So with those 2 new patents, we have all in all 5 patents pending for the Heat Power 300 system. And then we have an additional 10 patent families for both Heat Power 300 and Heat Power 150. And there's a lot of work also ongoing when it comes to supply chain. So we have started initial low series production of Heat Power 300 in preparation for this order for Neo Group. And we know that we can, when we get more orders, we can start ramping up this supply chain and production quite quickly. So with that, I would like to hand over to Carl for some finance update.
Thank you, Lena. I would like to summarize the main focus areas for us going forward from a financial point of view. And first of all, as sales will take off with new customer orders, and Lena has already described that process, the profitability of the Heat Power 300 business is of course essential for us. Climeon's previous product generation was too expensive and contributed with a weak gross margin to the business, and that's why we're currently working also on the cost side of the new system, so we can be in a better position as the product is being rolled out to our customers. And these activities includes cost-efficient sourcing of different components, of course, but also dual sourcing if that is applicable, assembling, test process, as well as freight and transportation. So all in all, basically the whole supply chain. And as mentioned before, an improved gross margin versus the previous product, that is the key for us for profitability and positive cash flow also going forward. Aside to that, we're also addressing our OPEX, as we're continuously doing. We need to keep that at the minimum until we can roll out the modules in a larger scale. Minor investments are planned for going forward, but that is not estimated to have any significant impact of our current cost level. And also what we saw during the quarter and the first half of this year was a decline in cost compared to last year. And also finally, going to the cash flow, our operational burn rate must maintain low. This of course goes in line with our cost-based development before we have any revenues to speak about. But it also includes our working capital, where we had a negative development during the quarter. Our receivables grew during the end of the quarter, and that affected the working capital negatively. Next slide, please. Thank you. Discussing a bit on the cost side then, a bit more detailed. We of course, as mentioned, need to keep our cost base at the minimum before the rollout. So we're working hard to keep our costs down. And as I mentioned before here, I'm also happy to see that our cost base continued to go down, also in line with our plan during the second quarter. OPEX, including organizational costs, declined versus both Q2 and the first half of last year with 20% and 14% respectively. Our organizational cost is a major part of our cost base, and we have, as I think I've previously mentioned as well, is that we have an organization in place that can deliver in line with our plan, both short and midterm. So we don't see any significant investment in organization in the shorter or midterm perspective. Of course, minor investments are planned, but that will mainly be within marketing and commercial activities to even further boost our sales activities. Next slide, please. Thank you. When it comes to the cash flow then, as I mentioned in the first slide there, to keep our operational cash flow at a constant low level is of course, I would say, one of our main priorities. It goes with in line with our cost-based development, but as mentioned, we also added some more accounts receivable during the quarter, at the end of the quarter, that impacted the working capital negatively. Therefore, I would say that to improve the working capital will be during the coming quarters is of course a key for us going forward to strengthen our cash balance. Other ongoing activities to strengthen our cash is to of course to evaluate other current assets to see if they have any potential value for us in other ways. That work will continue during the coming quarters, of course. But the most important operational task for us is to ensure a better cash flow going forward is to close new customer deals. And I think that message cannot be more clear. And therefore also the most important activity within Climeon at the moment is to increase our commercial activities even further. So that's what we're working on right now. Thank you, Lena.
Thank you, Carl. So we continue with a summary. So these are our focus areas that we have presented and gone through today. And these are also the focus areas that we will continue to work on. Just like Carl said, we have a lot of focus now in the respective business areas. So a lot of focus within the energy and industry business area, and making sure that now with a new product or the new order that we have taken, that we meet all the customer requirements there, and make sure that we take new orders. Within the maritime area, there's a lot of things ongoing there together with customers. In product development, we do everything to meet the customer requirements and also continuously evaluating new potential patents and making sure that our system meets all the requirements on electricity production, the cost targets, what we have said, all the certification requirements, all the documentation requirements, and so on. And then Carl also gave you an update on what we do when it comes to finance. So with that, I would like to open up the possibility for you to ask questions, and I will be available for questions, and also Carl, and this session will be moderated by Laura. So handing over to Laura now.
Thank you very much, Lena. Thank you very much, Carl. Those of you who have been with us for a while know that you can either post the questions in the chat here, or then you can also alternatively raise your hand, after which we will give you the floor and you can unmute your microphone. We've had a few questions in advance, so as we don't have any raised hands or any questions in the chat, we'll start with those and then we will move back to you if and when you would like to raise a question. The first question is related to the future, and it's for Lena. With what customers have you had the most active and most developed discussions related to HP300?
Yeah, we are having a number of customer dialogues, and many of the customers we have spoken with during a very long time, and the sales processes are in various stages, both within the maritime industry. We have a lot of customer discussions when it comes to energy production and also industry. And we have a number of dialogues also in customer projects ongoing when it comes to geothermal. And yeah, a lot of them are in various stages. The only thing is we would not expect any geothermal projects short term, but from the other market areas, we have quite advanced customer discussions and negotiations ongoing.
Thank you very much. Very clear. And then Carl, what is the profitability of the Lithuanian order? And there's also a follow-up question. What will the direct cash flow effect of the Lithuanian order be?
Yes, I would say that we're of course satisfied with this new first order, and also in all essence with the profitability of that as well. Although this is the first, we should keep in mind this is the first order that we've taken. We have now initiated a low series production of the units, and that of course the first orders will not be the most cheap ones, if I can express it like that. So we will see a slightly higher cost base for the first orders, which I would say is more or less natural for the first rollouts. Although I would say if this would have been the perhaps the 10th or the 15th module sold, we would have been very satisfied with the profitability.
Very clear. Thank you. And then we continue to the sales, HP 300, and I think, Lena, this could be for you. How is HP 300 being sold, and how many people are included in the sales team?
Yeah, I mean, there is some similarities between our two market areas, and then there's some variance, of course. First of all, we get a lot of incoming inquiries. Actually, the Lithuanian order, they contacted us, and it was they had discussions in the end with 2 overseas manufacturers, and we won this order against competition. But they contacted us, and we get a lot of incoming inquiries all the time. We get a lot of incoming inquiries from all over the world. In most of them, if we see that we have a technical fit, we send out budget quotations. So we have budget quotations ongoing all over the world in all different business areas. But the one we are working closest with are projects in Europe that we see can be realized pretty soon, and then also maritime projects. In the land-based areas, we are having all those discussions directly with customers ourselves. So sometimes it's end customers, sometimes it is EPC contracts. We also have consultancy companies, for example, in Sweden, which meets industries on a regular basis, and they want to have information of our system that they can then present to their customer, that Climeon can offer a potential to save electricity or produce sustainable electricity at their plant. Within marine, we have a number of sales partners that we work together with in selected customers or selected countries. Sorry, for example, in US, Korea, Italy, and Germany. So we have sales agents that we work together with there. But our marine team is very, very active and have a lot of direct contacts with customer also. So they have a lot of direct contacts with both ship owners and shipyards.
Thank you very much. We do have a few pre-registered questions, but just a reminder for everybody attending that if you have any questions, please either post them in the chat or then raise your hand and we will hand you the floor. I think, Carl, the next one is for you related to targets. Are you going to publish external sales targets for HP 300, and if, when? If yes, when?
Yes, I would say that at the moment we will not disclose any sales targets, and the reason behind that is that we want to build our order book a bit more. We've just taken our first initial order Of course, we aim to increase the order book even further going forward now. So we will come back to when we will be able to disclose any sales targets going forward.
Very good and clear. We do have questions in the chat now. The first one, I will just read it out loud. Customer payback time for the HP 300 is said to be 2 to 6 years. Who are the type of customers that can have down to 2 years payback time?
Yes, I think that is said in our marine brochures that we have. I mean, it all depends on the customer business cases. If it's a high price of electricity and there is a lot of waste heat available, and if it's also a cold source available, then we can produce more electricity. And especially if the customer is operating many hours per year, then there is a lot of electricity that can be produced within a year with our solution. And then it depends on the price of that electricity. So if there's a highest price of electricity and there's also a good way of or cost-efficient way of installing this system, yes, then the payback time can be as low as 2 years.
Perfect, thank you very much. And then we have a second question related to a base load. Is there an active cooperation? You own a big part of base load capital.
I can start to answer that one. Yes, we of course we're owning a share of Base Load Capital. Although any news regarding them, I don't think that we should or that is the forum for that here. Although we are in a active cooperation with them with regards to their current installations that they have within the geothermal field for our Heat Power 150 units.
Very good, thank you very much. We have one more pre-registered question, so if somebody on the line would like to raise a question, please do so now, because we are about to wrap up. How fast, Carl, I think this one is for you. How fast can you scale up production? What is the production time for one HP 300 unit?
Yes. I would say to scale up the production, we do not see that as any bottleneck for us at the moment. The current estimated production time for a module is around 1 unit per every second week at the moment now. So that is not a bottleneck, as mentioned, although of course we are aiming to decrease that production time even further going as we will increase our production as new orders will come in. So we can see an opportunity to speed up the production even further. But I would say at the moment production is not the bottleneck. Perhaps a bit more on the test phase, as we would like to test our modules at our test site and do factory acceptance tests before we send them out to customers.
Thank you very much. It appears we do not have any further questions, so I will hand over to Lena to summarize and say goodbye.
Thank you, all of you. It was great that so many people was attending. Also today, it's the middle of the Swedish summer. And if you want to continuously to follow us at Climeon, the best way to do it is on our LinkedIn and follow our LinkedIn account, because that is where we publish most things on a regular basis. And we will also either later today or tomorrow see a podcast there where I participated in earlier this summer, if you want to learn more what we do at Climeon. And the next time when we will have an investor update like this is when we publish our Q3 report in the beginning of November. So thank you all of you for your attention and wish you a continuously good summer, and we will keep you updated as things happen here at Climeon. Thanks all of you for attending and all your questions.